Hello, Mike from Greenway. Well, today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to take a road trip across Western Canada. We're going to go from Calgary, Alberta, just west of there, to Winnipeg, Manitoba. And it's going to be a long drive, and we're going to drive in this 2013 Tesla Model S 85. And we're going to use the supercharging stations. We're going to see how well a 12-year-old Tesla can make it across the western landscape of Canada, and see how long it takes and what supercharging is like, and see how long it takes to get there. So please follow me and join me on this trip. Okay, here's what we've got at the moment. This Tesla has 181,414 kilometers on it, and we're going to reset trip A here, and we're going to use that for our calculations on this trip. Okay, so we've got it set to 0. So let's see how good our efficiency is. Let's see how far we can go, and let's see how many stops it takes for this trip. So let's go back to our menu here. I'm gonna navigate to Winnipeg. There we go. So we're going to take a couple days to do this. Currently it's 4:03 p.m. and it says we should get there by 9:54 a.m. if we were to immediately get there. But for the first trip stop, we're going to get to a supercharger in Bassano because we're not fully charged at the moment, and we'll continue on from there. So it's going to show that we have several stops along the way. And as you can see here, there's several supercharging stops. So if we scroll through all those, you can see here all the different stops that we're planning to do on the way back to Winnipeg. So let's get going. Okay, we made it to our first charging stop, and we've gone so far 180.1 kilometers. Usage is 174 watt hours per kilometer, which is pretty good. So according to this, we're gonna need to charge here for about 23 minutes. So that takes us, let's see, today it's right now it's 5:59 p.m. So let's, by 6:23, 6:22 we should be done. Let's see if that actually is correct. And then I've got our next destination charger, our next supercharger programmed in here as well. And so that's where we are for the moment. So let's plug it in. Let's see what speed we get here at the supercharger. It's ramping up. $108 looks like what's it maxed out at. It's already tapering off there a bit, so that's where we're at. So we'll check back with you around 6:22, 6:23, and see if we can continue on our trip. Okay, 6:25. They had estimated 6:22 to charge it up enough to continue our trip. It's still estimating 5 more minutes, although it does say we'll already have 5% when we get to the next supercharger, so that's a pretty decent amount. I think I'll just wait a couple more percent here, and then we'll head out. Okay, we made it to our next charging stop here. We've gone another 163 kilometers at 197 watt hours per kilometer, and we have 8% of our battery left. So our next stop is there is going to be Swift Current, but we're also stopping for dinner, so I've programmed it to skip over the next supercharger, which is closer than Swift Current. So we need to charge up at least 60 more percent, and it estimates 50 minutes, which is great, so that'll give us time for dinner. So that's our next stop, and we'll check in with you later. Okay, we stayed here overnight in Medicine Hat, and we charged at the supercharger when we arrived, and we didn't fully charge. Instead, we plugged into the trickle charger at the hotel overnight. So let's take a look and see what our charging status is right now. Okay, so the car is at 86%, which is great. It's not a problem here. And our next charge is quite far away, and that is in Swift Current. It estimates that we'll get there at 13%, and then you can see we've got a few more jumps here where we're arriving at 10% each time to all these different stops until we get to our destination here. So fortunately, with this large jump today to Swift Current, we were able to do a big charge overnight. So we're all set. So let's get going. Okay, so we made it to our next stop here. We did 224 kilometers, 220 watt hours per kilometer, and we're down to 10% battery. So this is estimating that we need to charge for 33 minutes so we can get to our next destination, which is in Moose Jaw. So it looks like we're making some good time here. So let's continue on. So let's do a little bit of battery capacity math here while we're waiting. So on our last segment, we started with 86% battery charge, and we stopped with 10% battery charge. So that means we used 76% of the battery. And as you can see here, over here, the kilowatt hours that we extracted from the battery is 49.5. So if we do a little bit of math here, so I got 49.5 kilowatt hours, and we used 76% of the battery. So that means it estimates we have about 65.1 kilowatt hours of battery capacity remaining in this 85 kilowatt hour battery. Now, for those of you who have studied these things before, even when this battery was brand new, it never delivered 85 kilowatt hours. It's something like 81 or something. So let's just say, let's see, 65. Let's see if it's 81. So we're at 80% of our original battery capacity, approximately. So that's not too bad for a 12-year-old battery. Anyways, I just thought I'd check that out. And as we're charging here, you know, these old batteries do not charge very fast. So we're at 46% and we're only at 60 kilowatts, 59 kilowatts charging speed. And it still estimates 20 minutes till we can continue our trip. And right now it's estimating minus 9% at our next charging stop, so we've got to wait for a while yet. I think I might short this a little bit and bring it, just wait till it estimates a 5% remaining balance when we get to Moose Jaw, and then we'll head on out. Okay, made it to our next stop here in Moose Jaw. We've gone 172.5 kilometers, hour and a half, and used 35 kilowatt hours of power. And it estimates we only need to charge for 12 minutes here because our next stop is fairly close. But let's take a look again. Let's do another calculation of that battery capacity. So we use 35 kilowatt hours. We're down to 7%. We started with 60, so we used 53%. So I'm going, actually, it just changed to 35.1. So let's do some math here. 35.1 divided by 0.53. So 66 kilowatt hours is now the estimate. So last time 65. Anyway, we'll do a couple more estimates, see what it comes up with, and see what we can do to calculate this battery capacity. All right, let's get it plugged in. See what charging speed we get here at 7% state of charge. Oh, 123, 122. Not bad, but I know as soon as we go up a few percent, it'll decrease significantly. Okay, made it to our next charging stop, or at 10%. We only went 81 kilometers, so it was a pretty quick little jaunt there. But this one's going to be a longer wait. Estimates 31-minute charge time to get to the next station at Whitewood, Saskatchewan. And we need 42% at least added to our battery. Okay, so let's charge up. Okay, made it to our next stop here, and you can see we got down to 4%, so we do even have a power limit. That's that yellow dashed line at the top there. Still lots of power, but there is a limit. We went hour and 35 minutes, 172 kilometers, and if you see there on trip A, that's our trip in total. We're at 995 kilometers, so that's around 600 miles, and we've already used 201 kilowatt hours of power. So the car is estimating now that we need to stay here for about 27 minutes, and then our next stop will be Brandon. We do get some pretty nice speed on the charging for this 12-year-old car when you're down at 4 or 5%. But you can see it's going to taper off pretty quickly. We're at 128. We're already down to 122 after a few seconds, so it won't last very long, but in any case, that's how it maxes out when you got the old battery. Of course, the new cars are 250 plus kilowatts, so a lot newer technology, but this is still suitable for the road trip. right, made it to our next destination, or supercharger here, 7% battery, 192 kilometers, hour 46 minutes, and just under 200 watt hours per kilometer. And it's asking us to be here for 24 more minutes for the next charger, so we need another 35%. And then that'll be our last, the next stop will be our last stop. Okay, we made it to our last stop. We're at 6% battery, 123 kilometers, just over an hour. We've gone 1,300 kilometers so far on this trip. And it estimates we'll need about 15 minutes to get to our destination. So we'll charge up and then check in when we get there. Okay, it's the final check-in for the trip. We're down to 7%. We're at our destination. We've done a total of 1,443 kilometers, used almost 300 kilowatt hours, and our average was 205 watt hours per kilometer. So the question was, can you drive a 12-year-old Tesla Model S 85 2013 model and drive it across Western Canada, almost 1,500 kilometers? And I guess the answer is yes. It was really uneventful. I mean, we just routed it through the different superchargers, and the car did all the work and figuring out. I just had to follow the instructions, and it got us from A to B pretty well. So if you're going on a 1,000+ kilometer road trip, I'd say yes, this car is still suitable for that purpose. It isn't as fast as the new cars because it doesn't charge as quickly, but it's still quite suitable, quite usable. And you know, the maximum I ever had to charge was half an hour, and that was if I was doing a long distance between different chargers, so it wasn't really inconvenient. So thanks for watching the video. If you found it interesting or informative, I'd appreciate if you'd give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for future videos. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.